This video is sponsored by Squarespace. The Last Unicorn. Your classic medieval fantasy film that, despite being made for a family audience, offers a lot of challenging and mature ideas. Identity, love, depression, morality, being able to stay true to yourself, and also this.
There is no immortality, but a tree's love.
Oh God, I'm engaged to a Douglas fir.
The Last Unicorn is a 1982 Japanese-American animation, which follows the story of a unicorn who is looking for her lost species. It's based on the novel also titled The Last Unicorn, which was written by Peter S. Beagle, who was actually also a screenplay writer for the film adaptation. The film was directed by Arthur Rankin Jr. and Jules Bass, and produced by their company, Rankin and Bass Productions. How original. The film has been highly requested in the comments section, and yeah, I can see why, as it is certainly an interesting one. So let's take a closer look at the plot. The film opens up to various shots of an enchanted forest, with a beautiful choir-filled musical score in the background. We see a unicorn who overhears from two hunters that she is the last of her kind.
And why do the leaves never fall here? Or the snow? Why is it always spring here?
And there's your bit of uplifting news for the day, guys. It's not global warming that's melting the ice caps, it's simply the return of unicorns to our world. She speaks to a weird looking butterfly to ask him whether he's seen any other unicorns on his travels, which, considering a butterfly's average lifespan is just 2 weeks, I can't imagine him travelling that far. Nevertheless, the butterfly tells the unicorn that her kind were driven away by a demonic Red Bull creature.
The Red Bull? What is the Red Bull?
Why, it's an energy drink filled with bull sperm, of course. Concerned by this news, the unicorn decides to leave the enchanted forest in order to track down the rest of her kind. Which I guess means the animals are now unprotected from hunters.
Stay where you are, poor beast. This is no world for you. Stay in your forest and keep your trees green and your friends protected.
So yeah, sorry guys, BRB, try not to die whilst I'm gone, LOL. Upon her travels, the unicorn is captured by an evil witch named Mummy Fortuna, and is put on display as part of her mythical attractions. Turns out though that most of the other creatures on display are actually normal animals, to which the witch has placed a spell on them to give the illusion that they are in fact mythical beasts. All that is except one, which is a creature known as the Harpy Solano, which also happens to possess 3 tits for some reason? What? Yeah, you've heard of the 3-eyed raven? Well, here's the 3-titted vulture. Whilst being held captive, the unicorn meets a magician named Schmendrick.
Who are you?
I am called Schmendrick, the magician. You won't have heard of me.
Who isn't really so good at magic. Schmendrick agrees to help the unicorn escape in what is probably one of the greatest rescue missions ever.
My dear, you deserve the services of a great wizard, but I'm afraid you'll have to be glad of the aid of a second-rate pickpocket.
They also manage to free the other animals, though I don't really think that chimp is going to survive well in the wild with a broken foot. Probably will end with a slow and painful death. They also release the 3-titted vulture, who doesn't seem too grateful for the rescue, as she immediately tries to attack the unicorn, but after finding her too much of a fight, settles to kill the witch and her minion instead. After escaping from the now deceased witch, Schmendrick decides that he would like to accompany the unicorn on her journey.
You may come with me if you like. Though I wish you'd asked for some other reward for having freed me.
Ow.
Soon they hear a bunch of outlaws approaching. Schmendrick uses the Promethean school of hiding as he decides to hide in a tree which is in plain sight of the pathway. You know, instead of running to the side like the unicorn did. After being captured and tied to a tree, Smendrick attempts to use his magic to escape, to which this happens.
There is no immortality, but a tree's love.
Oh God, I'm engaged to a Douglas fir.
What? Sure puts the Disney silly sympathy, the flowers and the trees into a different perspective. Luckily for Smendrick, however, the unicorn is nearby and is able to set him free. But before they can leave, they are joined by one of the outlaws called Molly Grew, who has waited to see a unicorn since she was a little girl. Molly is a interesting character.
And who's this long lout? I don't like the look of him. Slit his wizard.
No, that's only Molly Grew's way. But she has a good heart. A good heart.
Off with you.
A splendid woman.
Soon the trio find themselves confronted by the demonic Red Bull. So in order to save the unicorn from being captured, Smendrick uses his magic to transform the unicorn into another creature so that the bull won't recognize her.
What have you done?
The Red Bull came for a unicorn, so she had to become something else. The magic chose the shape, not I.
Yeah, well, after seeing what happened with the tree earlier, I'm starting to question just how your magic really does work. Molly and the unicorn then express their gratitude towards Smendrick's heroic act for saving her life.
You are an idiot! Do you hear me?
A splendid woman.
Now this is where the plot starts to detract a little. So the trio make it to a castle which is said to house the Red Bull. The castle is occupied by King Haggard and his adopted son Prince Lear. The king says he lives a life of misery and spends his life trying to find something that would make him truly happy.
Oh wow! That is relatable!
So he lets the three stay in the hope that they might be able to bring some joy into his life. The original plot of trying to find the lost unicorns gets completely sidetracked for a while, as we now focus on a love plot developing between Prince Lear and the human unicorn, who is now going under the name Lady Amalthea. And yeah, this love plot? We'll get back to that later. Whilst in her new human form, Amalthea has slowly been losing her identity as a unicorn, and has even started to forget as to why they came here in the first place, putting pressure on Smendrick and Molly to try and find where the Red Bull is being kept. King Haggard eventually confronts Amalthea and reveals that he knows that she is in fact a unicorn, and confesses that he now keeps the unicorns trapped in the ocean.
The Red Bull gathered them for me one by one, and I bade him drive each one into the sea. Now they live there.
What? As seeing them is the only thing that brings him some joy in life.
I can't seem to get happy. Maybe this will help.
Why the unicorns are being kept in the ocean as opposed to some dungeon or fenced off field? I don't know. Can unicorns even swim? Are they really that scared of the Red Bull that none of them even attempt to run away? I have no idea.
That's the only way to get rid of unicorns.
Amalthea, however, has lost so much of her memory at this point that she manages to convince the king that perhaps his suspicions were wrong. Molly, meanwhile, is able to learn the location of the Red Bull's den from a random talking cat.
Oh, purr, do that, yes.
What? Who exactly is this cat? And just why can it talk?
I just can.
They make it to the skull guarding the entrance, who seems to possess an odd laugh which reminds me of Donald Duck.
Maybe I'll tell you tomorrow.
In order to pass through, Smendrick pretends to make up some wine for the skull to drink. Now I don't know if this is an animation error, but there is clearly no liquid in that bottle. I suppose perhaps that because the skull can't smell or taste, he wouldn't know the difference? But surely he would at least be able to see that there's nothing in there, considering that he's able to see everything else around him. Molly, Schmendrick and Amalthea make it to the Red Bull's den, but are trapped in there by King Haggard, who manages to destroy the entrance. Oh, and Prince Lear is also in there with them. He just kind of turns up.
It worked!
Prince Lear!
And you would have gone without me?
Prince Lear learns the truth of Amalthea's identity, but says that he still loves her.
Oh, that's a very nice sentiment. But when I change her back into her true self...
I love whom I love.
Yeah, love. Amalthea says that she would now rather stay as a human so that she can remain mortal and live the rest of her life with Lear.
I want to die when you die. I'm no unicorn, no magical creature. I'm human, and I love you.
I'm bored! Let's go!
Lear, however, tells her that she needs to turn back in order to save the other unicorns. The Red Bull then appears, but is no longer fooled by Amalthea's human disguise, so Schmendrick changes her back to a unicorn in hope that she will be able to escape. Unfortunately, the Red Bull is too quick and has her cornered up against the ocean. Prince Lear jumps in to save Amalthea, but is knocked down by the bull. Amalthea now finds new strength inside of her because of the love for Prince Lear and is able to drive the Red Bull into the ocean, allowing all the trapped unicorns to run free once more. During their stampede, they end up destroying the castle, which causes King Haggard to fall to his death. Amalthea is able to heal Prince Lear, and despite stating that she's still in love with him, she cannot be with him as she needs to go back to her enchanted forest where she belongs. The film ends on a bittersweet note as Lear goes off to carry out heroic deeds in her honour, and Schmendrick and Molly head out on their own adventure. Wait, was there meant to be a love arc between these two as well? And that's the basic plot of The Last Unicorn. So what are my thoughts on it? Well, plot wise it seems to start off solid enough for the first half, but then in the second half, the main focus of saving the unicorns gets halted, as we instead get this romance plot developed between Amalthea and the prince. Now I've been looking at the comments on the film's upload to YouTube, and a lot of people there seem to really like the love story element. So I realise I might be going against the grain here, but at least hear out my reasoning. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing bad about incorporating a love element into a film, but this one just isn't incorporated that well. First off, there doesn't seem to be any romantic connection between these two characters, other than he finds her super hot and clearly wants to bang her.
You could make a dress. Please, lady, let me help you. What can I do for you? Trust me.
And then she only returns the feelings back to him after he randomly breaks out into song.
I've had time to write a book about the way you act and look.
And after that, they're in love. And this love plot doesn't really complement the main plot of the film. Best comparison I can make to this is the love plot of The Little Mermaid. As you know, mythical beast gets transformed into human but doesn't really know what human is. Which yes, The Little Mermaid's love plot is also flawed. I mean, that's pretty much most of the Disney princesses. Yeah, you know what a fork is? How about I teach you the meaning of another word that sounds just like that? But at least the love plot of The Little Mermaid ties itself in with Ariel wanting to live on land, and the villain using it as a ploy to trick Ariel into sacrificing her voice. In The Last Unicorn, the love plot just puts a break on things, to the point where our characters need really quick exposition given to them from a random talking cat so they can figure out how to get to the bull. But here's where I will give the narrative some credit. It does make efforts to give this film a very mature approach. It could have very easily have gone down the route of our two characters falling in love and living happily ever after, just as your typical Disney fairy tale would. But it doesn't. Our characters have to take the logical decision to go their separate ways, and don't end up getting that true happy ending, leaving Lear to make the best of the unicorn's memories and to commit his life doing good deeds, and the unicorn now having to live with regret, but being grateful that she now gets to experience that emotion.
I'm no longer like the others, for no unicorn was ever born who could regret, but now I do.
So following on from that, let's take a look at the characters. First up, the main character, the unicorn. she kinda has me undecided. I mean, on one hand, she does have a lot of negative traits to her. She's arrogant and believes to be better than all of those around her. The mere thought that she has been compared to a horse angers her.
Mare? Mare? I? A horse?
She doesn't really care for the normal animals being trapped in the cages and asks that only the harpy is released.
Keep your poor shadows, if you will, but let me go. And let her go.
But at the same time, I can kind of forgive those traits, as it is stated that it is just simple nature of the unicorns as a whole.
And you have no regrets as I do.
I can never regret. I can feel sorrow, but it's not the same thing.
The one flaw I find harder to dismiss is her attitude once she turns human. After falling in love with the prince, she's quite happy to let other unicorns stay imprisoned forever, and to leave her enchanted forest to fend for itself.
If we do that, all of the unicorns of the world will remain prisoners forever except one, and she will grow old and die.
Everything dies.
I mean, is it just me, or is that a really dick move? Schmendrick, on the other hand, I really quite like. He seems like the all-round good-natured guy who provides a lot of comedy in the film due to his incompetency. I also feel bad for him throughout much of the film as well, as he always seems to be the butt of the jokes.
I cannot turn you into something you are not. I cannot turn you into a true magician.
That's alright, don't worry about it.
I'm not.
Molly is also a respectable character. She starts off quite cold, but warms up as the film goes on. And yeah, I ripped on her for the way that she turned on Schmendrick in that one scene, but she does redeem herself later on, as she stands up for him on numerous occasions.
He's no magician now, but the king's poor clown.
He's doing it for you. You do wrong to mock him.
Forgive me.
And judging from the emotional breakdown she has when first seeing the unicorn, you can tell that she's had quite the hard life, so we'll cut her some slack.
A splendid woman.
Then we have Prince Lear. Oh boy. Prince Lear I found to be harmless, but laughably bad. His character really has no depth to him at all, other than he's trying to get a lay with Amalthea. Like, I kind of found him to be a douche. He goes out and slays innocent dragons just so he can impress her. He rips on Schmendrick in a really passive-aggressive manner.
Well, of course you're of noble birth. Anybody can see that. I mean, you can't really be that ridiculous magician's niece. It's out of the question.
And none of this is helped by the fact that his voice actor just seems to have no passion in his line delivery.
Amalthea! Of course, that is exactly what heroes are for. I will miss you. I never had any friends before.
I will not love you when I'm a unicorn.
Amalthea, don't.
The only saving grace this character has is that he persuaded Amalthea to turn back into the unicorn and did attempt to save her at the end, even though it was, you know, kind of pathetic. But my favourite character in this film has to be King Haggard. He is incredibly smart and cunning, and the voice actor does a superb job at delivering his lines.
There is no movement of yours that has not betrayed you. A pace, a glance, a turn of the head, the flash of your throat as you breathe.
Despite being the bad guy of the film, he actually comes across as somewhat of a tragic character, only doing the things he does just in a desperate attempt to get some happiness in his life. On a side note though, I thought the butterfly we see at the start of the film, because of his unique design and quirky nature, would play a much more prominent role in the story, perhaps even accompanying the unicorn on her journey. Because they make this big scene of him at the start of the film, and divulge background information on the nature of butterflies, which they don't really do for any of the other normal creatures. Why is this butterfly given human-like qualities when all the other creatures seem realistically drawn? I mean, sure, it's kind of like how in Pinocchio you have Jiminy Cricket's design, and are presented with Figaro, a realistic cat who lives alongside this human-sized anthropomorphic cat, but you just kind of accept it. In a film like this, which has established a fantasy existence with mythological creatures, I thought the design choice of this butterfly was intentional, as it would end up playing a bigger role later on. He even shows to possess vast knowledge of the world that he has obviously learned on his travels. This could have been used as a great exposition device to us as the audience, to explain the weird and crazy stuff we see throughout. But no, after this he just kinda disappears and is never seen again. Alright, let's take a look at the more technical side of things. First, the animation. Well, the animation for its time is decent enough. Backgrounds are painted with lush watercolours, the lighting effects are nice, the movement for the animals is realistic, especially on the Red Bull, which seems to have extra frames used for a smoother motion. The only bit I would say is a bit of a letdown is the humans. They seem to hold a very simplistic facial expression, along with very limited movement. Other than that though, the animation is pretty solid. The music, however, has to be one of the film's stronger aspects, from the epic choir scores that play at both the beginning and the end, to the intense horror pieces we get, such as when the harpy is attacking. But the highlight of the music has to be the vocal tracks that play throughout, especially the main title track. Apparently this track was so popular that it was actually one of the best-selling albums in Germany for 1983. So my final thoughts on The Last Unicorn. Well, it may not be a perfect film, but it is still a good watch. The plot, though flawed, still offers a lot of bold and challenging ideas that you wouldn't get to see in your typical kids film. And there are certain moments that do get quite intense throughout. I think I got more out of this film during my second watch, as it allowed me to focus more on what was currently happening on screen between the characters, rather than trying to keep up with the plot. The animation is decent to look at and definitely shines during the moments of action. The music is probably the stronger aspect of the film, both through its epic instrumental scores and its more wholesome vocal tracks, most of which you'll be seeking out to listen again after. I'd say give The Last Unicorn a watch. It's freely available on YouTube for now, and if you want something a bit more unconventional from your classic fairy tale story, this is the film. Also, be sure to give it a watch if you're into birds with 3 tits and trees with big boobs. Wait, if the unicorn can heal up anyone to full health, why the hell didn't she help out that poor limping monkey earlier on? Just want to give a quick shout out to Squarespace, who are this video's sponsor. Squarespace is a platform which allows you to easily build your own website, even if, like me, you have no website building experience whatsoever.
No, what are you doing?
Present your work using Squarespace's professional portfolio designs, pull in content from Twitter and Instagram, and create video backgrounds to offer a modern visual experience, along with many other features that you can see listed in the background footage. If you'd like to give it a go and get 10% off your first website, click the link in the description below, or go to squarespace.com/SteveReviews.